Boys and girls, it's good to be back again, like my hat. And it's in the colours, I'm not wearing it. Oh, maybe a little, no I'm not wearing it. So, this week, I'm going to need a beer. We're going to be talking about the Reform Party. Now, we've heard it all before, haven't we? And I'll start with my little journey from Maggie Thatcher. Kicked her out, didn't they? John Major, total fucking wanker. Yeah, I've already started. He sold us out, didn't he, through Brussels. Then I went along at the polling station and then I saw Tony Blair because he was the next great thing. He ended up even worse, did he not? The list went on. I then moved to New Zealand. I totally had enough. I'm going to do a piece on why I left the UK one day. And then I went back. David Cameron, because Gordon Brown was a complete bigot and an arsehole, sold us out, didn't he? And then I thought, David Cameron, I'm not a party man, hence why I'm doing this reform video. And what happened? David Cameron sold everyone down the river. The only reason I voted for him was because of the Brexit. He had to have Brexit, but that comes back to Nigel Farage. He was the one that pushed it, wasn't he? So before I get started, before I start drinking my beer, shall we play the opening titles? Oh, look at that. The Reform Party. Look, I do this pretty well, you know. For all you newbies, I do all my research. Look, there's all my research there. I do research. I don't just make this shit up. I've been doing this for a couple of... Excuse me. Hey, Les, you're supposed to do this. We had this out afterwards, you fucking lazy shit. Now, if you newbies, Les is my next door neighbour. He's a complete and utter waste of time. God, he's a gorgeous man. No, don't judge, I'm married, 36 years. So we're going to look at Reform Party, but shall we do the titles? I've got some nice little swanky music. Anyway, let's do the disclaimer.
We'd like to say that in our opinion it is not suitable for children or for those of you who may have a nervous disposition.
Oh, look at that. Now, I've tightened everything up for you regulars. So I've got all my notes, everything ready to queue up. This is a big one. I most probably completely fuck it up. Yes, I do swear a lot for you newbies. I've got to have a drink first. You know, Nigel Farage, he likes a good pint down the pub, doesn't he? I do believe all these beer drinking with him, we get to him in a minute. I think it's just to say he's one of the lads. Is he? We'll get to that in a minute. So we're going to start with Sarah from the Reform Party and see what she has to say.
Whose side?
Oh, sorry, Nigel.
Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
Now we're going to get to some of that in a little while. I'm going to go through the ECHR, what is that? And then there's a new one I didn't really look into, the WDF, Davos and stuff like that. So that's what he's talking about, a lot of stuff that. Then you've got Whitehall, haven't you, in the UK? You've got the Law Lords, House of Lords. He wants to reform all of it, so he says. So let's have a look at Sarah now. I popped this in about 10 minutes ago. So.
If I was in the fortunate position one day of being the Home Secretary, then under my watch, it's not impossible. It's about the will of the government to do it. Other governments have done it. Australia's done it. Yeah. Italy now under Giorgia Meloni is starting to do it. Even Germany is starting to question the ECHR. We will leave the ECHR when we get into government in 2029. We need to put a stop to this huge industry of left-wing human rights lawyers that make a fortune.
How much do they
out
make?
Of this industry. It's got to stop. And the endless appeal after appeal. We've got to put a stop. The Home Office, under my watch, will put a stop to this endless appeal process so that these asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, call them what you like, do not get the opportunity to spend the rest of their days here at the taxpayers' expense, appealing and appealing and appealing. It will stop.
So we've got to start there. Who are the ECHR? So they're to protect individual rights. Okay, I get that. They're not picked by anyone from the UK, by the way. There's 44, I did this before, didn't I? There's 48 different judges They come up with all these laws. So if you're wondering why the illegals can't get out of the UK, because they have human rights lawyers. By the way, these human rights lawyers, to help keep the illegals in the country, are paid by you, the tax person. So you're actually paying out of your taxes to keep these illegals in the country when you don't want them. And this comes out of the ECHR. So, prevent unlawful surveillance. What the fuckery fuck? Well, they failed on that one in the UK with all this facial recognition, even in supermarkets. Protect and free speech. Well, they fucked that one up as well, eh? Look at Lucy Connolly, even though now she's out. So, is this really working? Ensuing prisoners and detainees are treated humanely. Again, Tommy Robinson. How the fuck has he been treated over the last, 10 years in prison? Gee, and then Lucy Connolly, I told you in the last episode, where she was pinned down on the floor. Yeah. So it only seems to be good for certain people, doesn't it? And then it goes, holds the UK government accountable. Oh, for fuck's sake. Protects vulnerable people. So who are the vulnerable people? What about all the people that lost all their fuel tax? They're vulnerable people. They still cut that. So we're looking at the ECHR. Are they working? They're working for immigrants, helps prevent abuse of power. Oh, you're kidding me. You hearing this? Protects vulnerable people. Yeah, it protects illegal immigrants. Then you get the fucking lawyers come in and then your taxpayers' money pay for it. Stops phone tampering. Oh, God. Really? Same-sex relationships protected. Yeah, no, fair enough. I agree with that. Ban on corporal punishment in schools. I was the last one at Kilkeny. I had to get punished after they'd already brought it in. Another story. No detention without trial. Lucy Connolly was detained without trial, wasn't she? Tommy Robinson was. The UK had detained foreign terrorists suspected indefinitely without. They can be detained without charge post 11. See, these post 9/11 laws. The ECHR rule is breaching a right of liberty. Result: UK law changed to introduce time limits and judicial oversight of detention. So basically, there's a bunch of people in another country. Let's leave that there, shall we? In another country, telling the British how they should and should not detain people. So basically, Reform are saying we need to get out of the oh God, my brain's gone already. ECHR, so then they can get all these illegals out. Shall we have something else just to go on? So that's the first one. Need to get out of this fucking bloody dictatorship, eh?
Britain doesn't need more speech laws. It needs more police, more prison cells, and a justice system that actually protects the public, not censors it. Britain doesn't need more speech laws. It needs...
I didn't edit that one very well. So back on the ECHR, leaving the European Court. So they want to leave the European Court, of course. So will Reform leave ECHR? We know that it's all going to happen. That's the first thing I want to do. So we'll get that one out of the way as well. I'm not doing too well so far, am I? Leave a comment.
Okay, check this. A man was just arrested in Britain for saying, "We love bacon," outside of a mosque protest. So at the protest outside the Didsbury Mosque, a British man shouted 3 words, "We love bacon." Police stepped in and arrested him, of course. Let's pause here. We're now living in a country where you can be arrested for saying you love a food. Not for threatening violence, not for waving a knife, not for doing a throat-slitting gesture at people from a hotel window, not for walking inside somebody else's house trespassing whilst holding your bits, that's fine as well, but for saying that you love bacon. Because Muslims don't eat bacon. That's now a hate crime. The authorities know they can't control the migrant chaos, so instead they try and control you. They police the words of ordinary British people because that's easier than facing the consequences of their own policies. And the excuse? They'll call it hate speech. So what do we get? Arrests for bacon, lockdown drills for kids, and a government pretending it's all community safety. Fuck's sake. Honestly, this country has gone to the dogs. This isn't about safety, it's about silencing. And once you can see that, you can't fucking unsee it.
Thanks, Anna. Now, what she's talking about is free speech again, eh? You're supposed to have free speech. We know Lucy Connolly is going to go to America now and have a meeting with Donald Trump and his lawyers to have a look at this. Now, that brings me on to, I know we're on the Reform Party, but this all ties in. So we're now looking at Islamic phobia. Now, if you can't talk about the problem that's going on, you're fucked. So let's just have a look at this big, I've got it in the right order, this traitor.
Is Labour's views about the Islamophobia and controlling the Islamophobia in Britain and Europe as well?
We have to defeat Islamophobia. We have to be honest enough to accept that it's on the rise, that it spikes. And we have to speak with one voice in condemning that and taking effective action in relation to it. So we join together, we acknowledge the problem of Islamophobia and how widespread it is, but we are absolutely resolute in our commitment to defeat it.
What do you think that when we talk about Islamophobia, there is a rise in hate crime as well?
Yeah.
So what is your policy about that?
I spent 5 years of my life as the Director of Public Prosecutions trying to tackle hate crime, including Islamophobia. And that means making sure that everybody realises it's a crime, making sure everybody's committed to dealing with it, and that the criminal justice system is geared up to prosecute cases properly so that people know there's a consequence if they engage in hate crime. And I did that for 5 years. I fundamentally believe in it. We've all got to step up to the plate here.
So he's defending the people that come in that don't want to integrate with British people, not all of the Muslims, but that's what we're talking about, Islam. So he's bringing in, he wants to bring in a new law where you can't talk about Islam. So if you say, I don't want these people, these Muslims coming in over on this boat, hate crime, right? Look at all them kids that have been abused by these Muslims, hate crime. You know, it's free speech. You need free speech. I've always said, even if you don't agree with what people are saying, including me, it has to be heard because you need to know what people are saying. So this man, I have said from the word go, should be in a court because he is a traitor against the British values of life. He literally should be in court. He should be at least in front of a committee when he's no longer in power, which he won't be because these guys are obviously going to get in. He is a traitor. Just hearing him, just hearing what he's saying. You can't even talk about his. I'm still live. I got cut off. Do you know why? Because my memory card was full. Oh, ill-prepared. Where were we? So yeah, Islamic phobia. Honestly, you just can't make this shit up. So let's just go on to another segment, shall we? Meanwhile, with Lee Anderson.
I've got about a minute left, but I'll tell you a quick story. In 1941, my granddad, Charles William Waterfield, he left the Nottinghamshire coalfields. He left the pit before mining became a reserved occupation. He put a uniform on and he went to North Africa. And he left a wife and 2 children behind to fight for king and country. He did that. He didn't run away, didn't go to another country and leave his wife and children behind, which is exactly what these young men are doing. They're leaving women and children behind in a supposedly war-torn country. And quite frankly, I don't want these sort of people in my country, and neither does the vast majority of the British public.
So wouldn't that come under Islamic phobia? He wouldn't be able to talk about it if Keir traitor Starmer had his way? You get where this is going. It's all about being shut up, isn't it? So Lee Anderson, my point of view, I think Lee Anderson could well be Prime Minister one day. I like Nigel Farage. We're going to get onto him in a little while, but I think he's more well represented. Just my point of view. Anyway, we'll go on. Who's on next? Meanwhile, back in Leeds. You won't be able to talk about this soon because look at all the coloured people. I'm just saying. Beer. Yes. Majid, I researched him. Yeah, he's filming. Did he get arrested? No. Nice young Muslim lad, eh? And like all the young Muslims, I can't talk about this if Islamic... I can because I'm in New Zealand. But you won't be able to talk about it because that would be deemed as Islamic phobia. So, I'm moving on to Zia Yusuf. I had a problem with him because he's Muslim and he was the former chairman of the Reform Party who helped coup to basically get rid of Rupert Lowe, eh? I might get on to Rupert Lowe in a minute. A great Yarmouth MP, former MP for Reform. Now, Yusa, let's play something of him. He's a Muslim and we've got this Muslim problem. I'm just saying, Leslie. Beer time.
Because we see a future in which the United Kingdom, instead of being ritually humiliated, celebrates triumph after triumph. One in which national pride radiates through the kingdom because our people achieve astonishing feats in architecture, engineering, sport, literature, medicine, all aspects of human achievement. One in which families are bonded together and communities thrive. One in which young people feel fortunate to be a part. That is what reform will deliver. That will be the legacy of a reform government of the United Kingdom.
So, this is where I started with this guy thinking just another Muslim bloody guy infiltrating politics. He's in his late 30s. I'm going to play a little bit more on him. I'm not going to say too much. But this whole Muslim thing, this is where I have a problem with reform. This whole Muslim thing going on. Because they're talking about a lot of that as well, aren't they? And if we look here, Nigel Farage had a dinner party, as a fundraiser, you know, sucking up to people, a couple of weeks ago. And I had a look at that. Muslims were all on the top table. Paid anything, it says it here, for the VIP top table, all Muslims. £25,000 a pop. £25,000 to sit at the top table with Nigel Farage, and they're all Muslims. High profile guest Basim Hadar, entrepreneur. So you've got to look at who's pulling all the strings. This is where I'm getting at with Nigel and the Reform Party. So he's having given in the past £675,000 to the Tories. Now, I just say Tories. Tories are different than Conservatives. Do your research. Tory Party, which is now their new name, right? Then there's another one, Mohammed Asmira, ex-Conservative donor. So Nigel only came out last year and said, I will never ever do a deal with the Conservatives, Tories. But he is doing deals with individual ones to get money in. And this guy donated between 2019, 21, £500,000 to the Tory party, which didn't work. So now he's jumped ship and he's onto the Reform. What I don't like about where Reform is right now, they're taking all the dregs in from the odd Labour and then the Tory party. And he said he wouldn't do no deals with the Tory, because let's face it, they did stitch him up massively. Top donors. So the top donors now, let's get onto that one, shall we? The top donors in the Reform Party. The top one is Fiona Cottrell, the largest individual donor, because you have to look who's pulling the strings, and they do pull the strings. Contributed £250,000 in up to March 2025. Total in the last year £750,000 to the Reform Party. Richard Tice from Tizen Investments, fellow Reform leader and deputy. His company donated 600 in 1 quarter alone, £600,000. Do your research on Richard Tice. Then there's Nick Candy, Zia Yusuf. Yeah, Yusuf, we're back to him. Shall we just carry on then and have a look? Because I could just go on with the finances. Leave means leave, donated 900, nearly £1 million. Jeremy Hosking, substantial donor, around 1.25 million. Then I got the breakdown of it, where their money is earned, what they do. We just could go on all day just talking about why they're donating money. That's always my big concern when but you do need big business to support the reform, otherwise there'd just be another party that's no good, eh? Meanwhile with Nigel, it says here, so let's go meanwhile with Nigel. What's he saying now? I need a
on the current trajectory the country's on.
It's not a bad outcome the UK is headed to. It's a somewhat dystopian one. I mean, my family originally from Sri Lanka, so know a reasonable amount about sectarian politics and what that can do to a society. I don't have kids yet. I hope to have kids, and I want this to be a country that they and their kids are super excited to live in. And I still think we have an opportunity set for that, which is why I work as a volunteer and have basically dedicated my life to this.
As long as he doesn't have about 20 kids and they all end up on the stage. I'm just saying, Liz, hey. So, I'm starting to warm to him a little bit. You know what I'm saying with it? Because you look at Islamics, you've got all this trouble, and there's a Muslim at the forefront of the Reform Party. I'm getting there. So meanwhile, it says with Nigel, I'm not doing too well today, eh? I've got so much on my plate. I need some assistance. Let's have a look.
And there are 10,400 foreign prisoners
in our prisons, has been mentioned on this platform already. They will be deported back to their home countries. And I think I'm in conversation with Eddie Rama from Albania. And I think he's rather agreed that he will take back all of the Albanian prisoners in this country, which is rather a good thing. And yes, we do think dynamic prison places overseas work. You've seen America doing it recently, but the Scandinavian countries are doing it too. You know, Estonia is quite prepared to take prisoners from this country. And in fact, the Labour government has had those conversations already, but of course, nothing has come to fruition. Denmark sends off prisoners to Kosovo and places like that. I mean, it is quite astonishing that to keep a prisoner in a British prison costs nearly £52,000 a year. You could send a child to Eton for that price. So if we can send some of our worst violent criminals overseas to serve their terms, then yes. And if that means that Ian Huntley goes to El Salvador, well, our attitude is so be it.
So he's under fire at the moment. We'll get to his conference yesterday in a little while, towards the end. So he's really, really staunch on that. So these prisoners, I had a look in the research, there's up to 10,000 illegal or legal immigrants from abroad in our prisons, and it's over £50,000 per person to house them in a prison. 10,000 times 10,000 by 52 doesn't take a lot, eh? So let's have a look at a little Nigel, shall we? I mean, I've known him on the world stage where he was a Euro MP. He was the one that really heavily UKIP and then pushed Brexit, didn't he? He forced that. And good on him. And it would have worked if it wasn't for that clown Boris Johnson and the Tory party that sold you, and then Keir Starmer sold you down the river. Look at what Keir Starmer did later. Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson did a deal to let the people in Europe carry on fishing round in our waters for another 7 years. That deal then ended, and Keir Starmer extended it to another 12 years. Hey, June. I've got a friend, June. She's heavily in the fishery, and she'll be a Reform Party MP one day, I'm sure. I reckon she'll even be in cabinet. I reckon she will, because she knows Nigel and she knows her stuff. So let's just have a quick look at Nigel, shall we? Upbringing and early life. Is he a good working class lad? Education. Farage began in Greenhays School for Boys. Oh God, School for Boys. You can tell it's already private, isn't it? I'm not against private, and I'm sure if my kids, I had the money, I would have put my kids through private. Another school was Eden Park, 75 to 82, and he attended prestigious fee-paying Dulwich College in South London. Early career, after finishing school, he skipped university. Good, because that's just dumbing people down to another narrative, isn't it? And he became a commodities trader. You know, he would have been a smart cookie in his 20s, being a commodity trader. He works for Dexter, Burrell and Lambert, and then credit someone else, and the list went on. How he made his money. This is where I wanted to go. Commodities, obviously, then his political career. This is what I like. He was an MEP from 1999 to 2020. This is where I quite like him, because he was earning good money as Euro MP, but he was against Britain being in it, so he's doing himself out of a job. You get what I'm saying? That's not bad, eh? That's a guy that doesn't agree with what he's in, and he'll take the money till he gets himself out. His estimated worth is up to anything up to 7 million. Why not? Why wouldn't he? I mean, I'm all for entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself. So it goes on here about his net worth and blah blah blah. I know I shouldn't say blah blah blah. I know, but his earnings through media. I like how he's developed as a media guru through the years, the lad in the pub with a pint, which he's not really, but he comes across. You know, that's wrong of me saying, because I've seen him lately. He's in constituents where you wouldn't even most probably even the camera crew don't go, or someone's on a cell phone and does it, and he's just literally in the community. I don't know where I was going with that one. Anyway, that's little Nigel, bless him. Is he a good bloke? I think he is. When you look at his track record, he sticks to his guns normally, not always, but you can't in politics, can you? You literally cannot. I do have a problem with him about Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson was saying what he's saying long before he did. Yet he's against Tommy Robinson, and he won't let him join the Reform Party, which I really, really do not understand that one. Leave a comment if you understand why, because I don't. So what's on there next then?
Why doesn't the Prime Minister and I go to a working man's club somewhere in the Red Wall, and we'll sit there and we'll let them ask us questions, and you can all come along and cover it live. So that's my open invitation to the Prime Minister. Let's go to one of the former mining communities. Let's go somewhere that Labour have held the seat pretty much consistently since 1918. Whether the Prime Minister will enjoy a few beers with the lads and do the Channel 4 racing that afternoon, I'm not sure, but I'm very, very happy to do so.
Now, what he's basically saying here, Labour are for ordinary working people. He's more in touch with ordinary working people than the toolmaker's son. He is though, isn't he? Do you get it? Let's have another look at another one. I just don't get Labour.
If you don't understand why there is so much political unrest in the UK, please listen to this.
Anyone out there any good at maths? Here we go. 235 million to Ukraine, 145 million to Syria, 144 million to Yemen, 143 million to Somalia, 270 million to Sudan, 225 million to Ethiopia, 130 million to Palestine, 117 million to Nigeria, 107 million to the Congo, a cool nice round 100 million to Pakistan, 171 million to Afghanistan, Kenya got 80 million, Jordan got 68 million, and I think that's the country, not the person, 65 million to Myanmar, Bangladesh got 62 million, Nepal got 60 million, 56 million went to Lebanon, Tanzania also got 56 million, 50 million went to Malawi, and 310 million went to the World Health Organization. Who? That is a lovely round sum of £2,594,000,000. That's our money, but we don't need it.
And there you have it. And on top of that, millions of immigrants are brought into the UK, and billions are spent on them on a yearly basis. On top of that, France is given £2 billion just under £2 billion to, actually, sorry, my bad, £1 billion to control their border, but they're not. And people are just tired. People are just tired because government has no money. The money is the people's money. And it's been given left, right and centre and never ever spent on the people or on the country and on the services. And all we ever get to do, like all we ever have to deal with is taxes and fines and more taxes. We're barely ever making it from one month to the other, and yet the government, who's supposed to be looking after the public money, is spending it left, right and centre. And on top of that is the £28 billion black hole that they made in 1 year. Do you understand why people are sick and tired of it?
First of all, it's not a black hole, is there? They just borrow more money. So if you go back, she got it wrong. She said 2 billion, then 1 billion. It's not. It was £660 million paid to France to actually stop the boats. Yet Nigel Farage, a month ago, good on him, went out in an English boat, went to the halfway line, should we call it, out in the English Channel. We saw the French Navy escort the illegals to the halfway line. Then the British Navy finished off and gave them to the British shores. So she got it a little bit wrong, but she's not wrong, is she? The other guy's not. Did you get that? There's a girl looking at a guy, and then me looking at the guy looking at the girl. Oh, that's funny, eh? You can't make this shit up. At least I keep all of the references who are doing this. I don't cut and paste and just leave them out who did it. So I used her previously in another post. Why I used her is she's young and she's enthusiastic and she wants to know what a lot of people do today. So I think it says here, back to little Nigel. Is that green, Nigel?
And the genuine fears that mothers have, particularly for teenage kids, when we know already that an Afghan male has a 22 times more likely chance of being convicted of rape than somebody born in this country. The fact that 40% of sexual assaults in London over the course of the last 5 years have been committed by those born overseas. You know, we have to recognise something. There are some people who come from certain cultures that pose a danger to our society. It's as simple as that.
So, from certain cultures, Islamic phobia, if the Prime Minister, traitor, gets in power, he wouldn't be allowed, would he? Or he's been very careful what he's saying anyway. He wouldn't be even allowed because it's Islamic phobia. What do you mean? Well, you were talking about Muslims, weren't you? We know it's all about fucking Muslims. Dear old Nigel, he's getting better. As this went on over a period of weeks of me researching, I'm getting to like him more and more. No, Leslie, I don't want his babies. Go off, people.
What happened under Boris Johnson was, you know, we're going to quote, take back control and just open the gates. That's basically what they did. And I think that's one reason why there is so much anger now. I think justifiably directed at politicians of both parties, right? I mean, I said, you know, Labour are basically doing what the Tories did, just faster. Almost everything that is appalling that Labour are doing, you just trace back, you know, Chagos, it was the Tories who started 5 rounds of negotiations to hand over the Chagos. Let's take law and order, something that's obviously, I think, a real focus for people listening to this programme, who will feel really unsafe. The reality is that if you keep asking why, the primary problem there is prison spaces. We don't have enough space in our prisons. Now, you can debate about who's being put in those prisons, different discussion, valid to have, but fundamentally, we do not have anywhere enough incarceration space to house violent criminals, right? And the Tories, over the 14 years they were in government, grew the population by 6.5 million net new people. Do you know how many new prison places they built for that? 411. Now, even if those people coming had the same propensity to commit crime, which they don't, they have a higher, but let's park that. Let's just say even if they're the same, anyone who's looked at any social science, right, and cross-culturally or all over the world, if you have a large population, a small fraction of that, sadly, will be violently criminal, and a small fraction of that cannot be rehabilitated. Just a reality. So you have to have enough prisons. But
he makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't he? Yes, it's not... white people commit crimes. There's a lot of white people in prisons as well. I'm just starting to like him. And this is where my journey with him started about 2 weeks ago. So, it's got here. Him again, London.
For Migration Studies, the Centre for Migration Studies recently published that since 2020, unemployment benefits to foreign born people have been £36 billion. We are talking simply about eye-watering numbers. The other statistic that I was surprised by was that low-paid migrants on average cost the taxpayer £150,000 by the time they reach retirement, let alone what that will be afterwards. So let us be clear, non-selective, in many cases non-working, mass migration into Britain has made everybody in this country poorer, except, of course, for big employers who love as much cheap migrant foreign labour as they can possibly get their hands on, as the argument grows every year that British people simply won't do those jobs.
So if you looked at the bottom, it said 759,000, just 750,000 immigrants legally coming into the country are now signing on. Basically, that's what it said. They're signing. I did the research, and they're signing on. Then they're having lots of fucking kids. Oh, shall we go back to my new favourite little man, my little Muslim friend, Zia? Oh.
We need to stop the boats, and we talked about how we do that, so stop the illegal migration. Number two, we need to freeze net migration, so 0 people coming on a net basis for a number of years, not forever, but for a number of years. Give ourselves a chance to build the infrastructure that we need. You know, the Tories, over 14 years, they grew the population, they exploded it by 6.5 million new people through migration, and they left the country with fewer hospital beds than where they started. So we need to build more homes, we need to build more hospital beds, we need more prison spaces, we need to build infrastructure. We also need to protect the culture of this country, Darren, which has been frankly fed to the wolves by the appalling open borders policy that has been promoted by successive Tory governments, of which Kemi was a part. So all of the things she's talking about are incremental tinkering at the edges. What this country needs is a reboot.
Wow. So, get that. I just wrote that down. New people. So, under Tories, 14 years, 6.5 million new people in the country. I put at the bottom why in question marks. Why? So what Zia is saying is the country needs to breathe. It needs to reset. It needs to go, why are we bringing in all these people? Because let's face it, I've got friends on Facebook that I see say, I waited 2 weeks for an appointment to see the doctor, or the National Health Service, I got them on a waiting list. My sister was on a waiting list for a hip replacement. She was in serious pain for 2 fucking years and it waited that long before she got a bloody well appointment to actually bloody have the operation. 6.5 million new people in the country. You can't tell me there was a deficit of jobs of 6.5 million people that we needed all these fucking immigrants in. Bollocks. See here on London. I'm sure I got this right. Yeah, Liz.
Most people who walk around in London, they hold their smartphone like for dear life, in a way you don't need to in a lot of other countries, including third world countries. Why? Because we have an epidemic of people riding around on e-bikes and mopeds stealing mobile phones. Okay, let's look at the statistics behind that, because we're often told, well, that's just irrational fear. Do you know what percentage of smartphone thefts result in the suspect even being identified? Not arrested, not charged, not convicted, not incarcerated, just identified.
I'm assuming it's around an error on 0.
Sub 1%. So you have a 99%. So if you look at incentives, going back to the Charlie Munger quote, why would you not be stealing phones if you have a north of 99% chance of even being identified before you go and look at all of the other things? They're invincible. They feel invincible. Yeah. And that's what we have now. We have a country where, I tweeted out, I think yesterday, that we live in a country where we're told that deporting people here illegally is illegal. We're told that stopping people coming here illegally across the channel is illegal by our politicians and our judiciary. And I put much more blame on the politicians than the judiciary, and we'll come on to why. And then we're also told, and then you look at shoplifting, which is de facto legal. I mean, below £200 is like definitely de facto legal, but no one cares. Drug dealing, all of these things, right? All of the things have such a massive, antisocial behavior, huge negative impact on quality of life for people who live in this country.
Right, this is where I started to like the guy. He's a Muslim. This is where at the beginning of this show I had a little problem. But he's showing almost Christian values as a Muslim, isn't he? You get me? He's wanting a safe environment for his kids when he has kids, and he's against all of these crimes. We know crimes up through the fucking the London mayor. Where do you fucking start with that fucking cunt? Oh, I know. Yes, James, I got a swear jar. Hey, Mel. Now, I'm liking him. I'm really starting to like him. I do have a, when it comes to this guy, all right, I really, come on, fucking play. Les!
Your thoughts? Your thoughts?
My thoughts on the relationship with France?
Your thoughts on Macron's state? I mean, do you even think we should have a state visit at this moment in time with Macron?
Well, we pay the French 480 million a year to stop the boats coming over, and they've just basically laughed at us, and the boats seem to come in ever greater numbers, despite the fact Keir Starmer promises he's going to control our borders. Our historical relationship with France, I don't share the Prime Minister's view. The French may be our ally in name, but they've historically never been our true ally. I would actually argue they're our enemy. They are part of the European continent. They have done many things to damage us, not least recently. The British people voted in 2016 to take back their sovereignty. France and the European Union has done their absolute damnedest to make sure that we don't have fair and free trade with them, which, considering that we fought 2 world wars to free them and help them protect their independence and their sovereignty, I do think they should have respected the British people's vote, and they should have made it much easier for Britain to play a part in Europe, even if it's not a fully signed up member to the what I call post-war socialist experiment that is called the EU.
Yeah.
This is where I have a problem with the Reform Party and Zia, because Zia was party chairman at the time. Who's our new one, by the way? Oh, Andrew Cole. No, not Andrew Cole. He's head of GB News. Oh, he's the new guy is Dr. David Bull, I believe. Yeah, chairman. I'm not going to get into him just yet. Rupert Lowe had so much common sense. All right, he was extreme. I wouldn't say he's far right, because there's no such thing as far right. There's common sense. He had so much common sense, didn't he, that something had to give in the Reform Party, where he put all these illegal Muslims, and there's Zia, who's partly funding and frontman and the Reform Party. And they made all these allegations up, didn't they? This is what I don't like about politics. When you make things up and you say, oh, he was a bully or he's abusive, and then after they kicked him out of the party, it was all non-founded. See, this is what I don't like. I don't like that sort of politics where to shut someone up, you make up an allegation, and Zia's, oh, I'm standing down, but he's now still a voice. There's a little... You know, when you hear the voice, when you think, not quite right. That's where I do worry. But anyway, my new best friend Zia, talking about dark times. No, not the colour of his skin. Come on, we've gone over that one.
This is a dark time, no doubt, for our country. There are many people who, frankly, felt pretty hopeless, that no matter whom you voted for, the red team or the dark blue team, you basically got the same thing. What's clear now is that there is, really for the first time in about a century, a real viable alternative. The stranglehold the 2 old parties have had on British politics is decisively over. And now there is hope, therefore. There is hope for the people of Britain, for millions across the country, that there can once again be common sense, competence, and patriotism brought back to Westminster.
Oh, stop.
Unfortunately.
Oh, carry on.
Not trying to trigger anyone, this is just a fact. The vast majority of MI5's caseload is not far-right terrorism, it's Islamist terrorism. So that is a fact. We have a government that is willing to do the most extraordinary gymnastics in order to not actually address the problem. This particular report, for example, talked about how it used the word alleged when it was describing the grooming gangs, where there have been hundreds of people who have been convicted of those atrocious crimes. We know there's been an almighty cover-up. Labour have admitted this by doing allowing some partial inquiries, albeit not the full transparent national inquiry that Reform are demanding. So what we have is a government that is willing to essentially sacrifice the lives of its own people, as far as we're concerned, at the altar of this virtue signalling diversity. It's time for common sense. It's time for us to have officials who actually do their jobs in terms of keeping people safe. The final point I'll make is the monster who carried out the Southport attacks was reported to Prevent on 3 separate occasions. Who has been fired at Prevent? Who has paid a price for this inside anywhere inside the state system? Those little girls, it was one of the most atrocious crimes we could ever have imagined.
All right,
There's been nobody, not a single person funded by the taxpayer whose job it was to keep those little girls alive has paid any penalty. Well,
you see where I'm now going? I'm liking this man more than Nigel, I suppose. No, not really. He makes so much sense. I just wish I had this 25 years ago when I was seeing all this stuff going on. And I will do a little episode just on why I left the UK and I felt I was alone on what they're talking about today. I'm not talking about in necessarily my hometown about Muslims and stuff, but other stuff that was going on, council stuff. They're already in council now, aren't they? And they're trimming all the fat and getting rid of it. We need that in Lowestoft, which is my hometown. So I think, well done you. You can have my baby soon. No, Leslie, I'm only joking. Don't cry. Let's have a look at Nigel again, if I've got it right, because I need another beer.
Perhaps the biggest pledge that we would make today is to save 30,000 more police over a 5-year term of a parliament. And we will scrap all diversity, equality and inclusion roles. And we will aim for a higher and physically tougher standard of police officer on our streets. I think that if criminals slightly fear the police, that is a desirable place for us to be as a society. I knew a chap who'd served in the Grenadier Guards. He'd served in Afghanistan. He'd done 2 tours, one of them a very, very brutal tour. He came back in his late 20s and applied to join a county police force, but was rejected. A fit young guy, an army sergeant who'd done service, told to come back next year because they were having trouble with their quotas. Enough of all that rubbish. And in fact, on that theme, we would look very much to go to people who have served in the armed forces, who we think would make ideal police officers.
Armed forces, love it. Why not? They've done their time and let them in. Now, on that, I found really sad. I did it in an episode, I think it was in my Monday rant in the bar, not in an episode of my news channel. There was a guy who was practically in tears, a former army officer, and he was talking about why all these Muslims and all these, let's just call them fucking illegal immigrants. Do you know there's legal immigrants as well? And you don't know how many legal immigrants, and it all started with Tony Blair. The legal immigrants, they're allowing in, well, 6.5 million. We just discussed that earlier on. And 750,000 at least aren't working because they're having too many fucking kids. Average of 7 kids. Mohammed is the most popular name for the last 2 years in a boy. Do you know, they said last year Gary wasn't even in the list. Disgraceful. Anyway, what I was getting to was one of the pallbearers at Princess Margaret's got so many A. Princess Margaret, I like her. She was a bit of a sort A back in her day. Watch The Bank Job, and then you'll get to hear and see what she was like. There's a film, Jason Statham. One of the pallbearers at her funeral. We're talking about a pallbearer for the royal family, right? This guy was talking on TV, and he said, "Why are all these illegals getting housed when my friend, who was a pallbearer at Princess Margaret's funeral, died in a doorway freezing cold because he had no home?" This is true. Do your research. Princess Margaret's one of the pallbearers. Mind you, you could say the royals are no fucking better, eh? Didn't look after him. Anyway, we're now going to have a look at digital ID. So let's have a look. So this is reform on digital ID. Am I getting there? I've stopped drinking. I'm only on the 4th pint and we've only been going about 50 minutes. So, summary of position on the UK. So, you now got Labour, haven't you? Labour want this brick card. Don't fucking ever fall for the patriotism of the brick card. Digital ID. I've done this in previous episodes as well. Digital ID. You want a fucking digital ID to know where you are at all times. So, Labour Party. A significant push underway with Labour for national digital ID. So they want digital ID so they know where you are all the time. We've always got this face recognition, and free speech is demised because Lucy Connolly has highlighted that, or through what they did to her. And then all the other people, you can't mention a word fucking bacon when you're near a mosque. That's a laugh. It's British banter, isn't it? British banter, you're not even allowed it anymore. British banter, yeah, bacon, love bacon. Right, you're fucking Nick, mate. And I just don't get it. So the brick card they want to bring in because it helps to know where everybody is, all the illegal people. What the fuck? All these illegal people? Conservatives, conservatives. They're not, they're Tories. Conservatives. They could have fucking stopped all this fucking shit, and they had 14 years of what Reform were trying not to do. So the Conservatives, including Shadow Home Secretary Chris Fair and other figures, has expressed interest in compulsory digital IDs as a tool for border security. Border security! Border security can be by the fucking Navy. So, how can... Right, this is true, I did the research. How the fuckery fuck do you have control of your borders by having digital ID? You come into the country, they'll give them digital ID. You know they will. You're illegal. Well, you got the cell phone. We've already given you a digital ID, so don't worry. We'll know where you are, but just get on with your life in the UK. It doesn't change nothing, does it? Nothing. So, Reform's stance on digital ID. Policy gap. Reform UK has no not publicly have any stance on digital ID and a digital card. Internal disagreement. So you've got internal disagreement with a party with Sarah and a few others. I'm not going to read it all out. So basically, they're sitting on the fence. Reform, this is an alarm bell. So they're sitting on the fence with digital ID. And then the summary, which I'm now getting pissed off about, Reform no clear stance, lacks any formal policy or mandate or mention. Labour, yeah, blah blah blah, yeah. You know, it's, here we go. Let's have a look at another one. That's an alarm bell right there. That is an alarm bell. Think about it. Leslie.
Keir Starmer is reportedly seriously considering introducing digital ID to tackle immigration. Is that something you would support?
Yes, it's a Blairite idea. I'm sure that Tony Blair would have us all microchipped. No, I don't support it. I don't trust big government. If you want to see why my trust in government doesn't exist, just think about what's happened in the space of the last week, where they introduced legislation that they tell you is purely to protect children and actually is having a terrible effect on free speech and democracy. I would not trust this government with digital ID. I have to say I didn't particularly enjoy the vaccine passport phase that we lived through. And as for the argument, oh, it'll stop crime, it'll stop illegal immigration, it'll stop illegal working, well, I don't think digital ID will stop teenage girls being raped. I don't think digital ID will stop the drugs gangs. I don't think digital ID will stop illegal working. Frankly, what it's more likely to do is to impinge upon the law-abiding majority.
What he's very clever though there, think about it. He's very clever. Under this government, he doesn't like digital ID and the Blairites and everything else. He didn't say, I will not bring in digital ID. He just says, I don't like it under Labour. I'm going to cross that one off as a don't know, family fortune, eh? So, Chris Foster, Reform. He's got a lot to say. Have a listen to this. The WDF. Shocking. Get on with it.
Hi, it's Chris Farmer from Gloucester Reform. I hope you're well. There's one thing I think everybody needs to remember about Keir Starmer, which is he doesn't work for the Labour Party and he doesn't work for Britain. He's a globalist. He's a member of the WEF in exactly the same way as Boris Johnson was, Rishi Sunak, Theresa May, David Cameron and Tony Blair. They do not work for us. Keir Starmer does not work for the Labour Party. He's not interested in the Labour Party. He is perfectly willing to destroy the Labour Party, to destroy Britain. In fact, he really doesn't care at all about you, me and your family, my family. He's interested only in the globalist plan for what you might call a globalist government, a world government. That is Tony Blair's surveillance society. You might remember that phrase. So those people who have voted Labour thinking that the Labour is the party for the working classes, not anymore it isn't. Not anymore it isn't. Any more than the Conservatives were the party for small and medium-sized family businesses. What did the Tories do to the family businesses during lockdown? They killed them all. And what is the Labour Party doing to the working classes right now? He's putting them out of business, putting them out of a job. So we've got to get rid of this idea that Keir Starmer is working for us or even working for the Labour Party. He's a globalist.
So, the WEF, what he was saying is true, isn't it? We know Keir Starmer is now not a Labour man. Labour is now not a Labour Party. It's more conservative than the Conservative Party. Anyway, that's another story, isn't it? So the WEF, I know my stuff as Davos. If just do your research. I've done mine. I've been doing this for bloody years. So the word politics, WEF stands for World Economic Forum. It's an unelected body of people from around the world. I know, I'm in my head. So what is it? It's a non-government international organ. I got ahead of the game, eh? And it's based in Switzerland. Founded in 1971 by Klaus Schwab. Sounds like a good German name, eh? So basically, why it's I've highlighted why it matters in world politics. It doesn't, to me, why does it matter? We're on the other side of the fence, eh? If you're in the WEF, why it matters to you, but why it matters supposedly to us. Here you go, ready? The WEF doesn't make binding laws or treaties, but it acts as a network and agenda-seeking platform with world leaders. And not just world leaders, there's 3,000 of them. So I must probably double up here, because I know there's 150 world leaders from around the world went, but there's over 3,000 people there. My worry is the 2,850 not 800, you know what I mean. Them people, 2,850 people that are my worry. Fucking Jesus. And I'm only on my second point, really. I said I was on my fourth. Am I? So what matters on their politics? So climate change, sustainability, global economic growth. For what? The powerful and the rich? We don't fucking ever see any of that, do we? Growth. The only growth I saw the other day was my tomatoes cost me $8 a pundit, which was extortionate in the supermarket, and a week later they're $10. That's growth. Not for me, but for fucking someone else, eh? Criticism, sorry, mouthful of saliva then. Criticism and controversy. Basically, we don't have a vote on what they say. We have no say on it. And if I'm really serious with you right now, who attended 3,000? Yeah, 130 countries. Sorry, got that wrong. 150. And then it just, the list goes on with about, I'd say there's a good 2,000 people there that were elected worldwide or unelected worldwide that actually turned up and decided on how things are going to go forward. Have you ever wondered why house prices suddenly rise or food prices rise? Ukraine war. And this is all coming back. Key strategy, I'm going down a very, I'm not even fucking going to bother with these bastards. Basically, it's an unelected body of people. So you're going to have Vanguard, BlackRock, and all the other big Nessols and all of them. They're all going to be there. They're all going to be there, structuring how the world should be, and Keir Starmer is part of it. And these guys are not having a bar of it. So that's really good, eh? So what are we up to? Ooh. My new best coloured friend, Zia, leaving ECHR. Feeling a bit pissed, Leslie.
Under a reform government, we will leave the ECHR and replace it with a British Bill of Rights. The world's brightest and best continue to fall over themselves wanting to come here, yet for them, we make it impossible. Sadly, it's actually much easier for a convicted murderer to get into the United Kingdom than it is for a Nobel laureate. So why is it that the British people get poorer every year in real terms? It's down to the appallingly incompetent and Britain-hating political leadership this country has endured for decades. In his first act as Prime Minister, he will pick up the phone to the First Sea Lord.
Doubled up. He's a good spokesman for reform, isn't he? I don't know why he's not stood in Parliament myself. This ECHR, do your research. Let's just move on, shall we? We're having a look at what he thinks of Nigel. He's bummed. No, just a good friend, not me.
In his first act as Prime Minister, he will pick up the phone to the First Sea Lord and order His Majesty's Royal Navy to see to it that not a single unauthorised vessel crossing the English Channel makes it to the shores of the United Kingdom. Our Navy will embark on a humanitarian mission to pick up those attempting this hazardous journey, ensuring nobody is harmed and that they will be taken back to France for their own safety.
Ooh, big one, eh? The only thing with the Reform Party is that gets me is it's hooked on to all of this, isn't it? Or so you think. I've maybe hooked on too much to deporting people. Should have deported the French when they were in our hometown in Lowestoft all in bloody years. Damn buggers. I even got in a fight with the Belgian Navy, me and the Wild Bunch. That was a good fun. God, I get a black eye. No, I'm not. I'm just disappearing in another world, eh? So we're going to have a look. I'm going to balance it out, because how I look at this is, are they just telling me what Tony Blair told me in the 90s? What David Cameron told me in this country here? What John Keyes told me, National Tory? And then what bloody Jacinda Ardern told me, fucking total bitch. And now it continues, and now I've got Chris Luxton, National Tory. Are these guys just playing the political game, or are they in their heart, really in their heart, saying we do need change and we are gonna do the best we can? I'm now going to give a different spin. You might not like this one. It's, you know, Jack, excuse me, I'm a dinosaur baby, who doesn't believe in dinosaurs and all this other stuff. This is actually quite a good spin. Is it all the same that it's ever been in politics? We just got a new breed. Have a listen.
A straight up rant about this because this blows my mind. Let me know in the comments if you agree. The world right now is in complete uproar about migrants. Agreed? Shouting, posting, marching. Yet at the same time, everyone is still happily paying their taxes, which just so happened to fund these wars that these migrants are running away from. Make fucking sense. You know, let's just call it what it is. You're screaming about smoke while shoveling more wood into the fire. And the best part is, whilst you're all shouting and arguing over migrants, you're still treating politics like it's a fucking sports league, jumping from one shiny new party to the next. Oh, this one's different, this one's the People's Party. No, it is not. It is the same old players playing the same old script by the same old owners, just wearing a brand new fucking shiny badge so that you just clap along like it's a brand new game. It's literally the illusion of choice. This has been going on for centuries. Meanwhile, you know, behind closed doors, the real decisions are being made. You think that the headlines are the truth. No, the headlines are the distraction. The whole migrant thing, the whole endless political drama, it's all just a cheap sideshow, so you don't actually see what's going on in the tent, the real moves, you know. The financial handovers, the power grabs, the corporate deals, they're all happening whilst you're arguing in the comment section about who's crossing what border. It's literally the oldest trick in the book. Divide the people, get them fighting over the scraps, keep them distracted whilst the big money, the big power keeps moving heavily in the shadows. And most of you are still falling for it, you know, hook, line and sinker. If you want to know the truth, right, the migrants aren't your enemy. The political opposition isn't your saviour. Your real enemy is the system that you keep funding every single day. Every tax that you pay, every vote that you cast for the same machine that's just dressed in a different colour. It's all you handing them the keys to your own cage. This is what they don't want you to know. Literally, you can stop it. You can stop playing their game. You can stop giving them your energy, your money, your focus. You know, keep your focus entirely out of the system. Build local, build together, actually starve the beast. But no, Netflix is just easier, isn't it? Arguing online is easier. Pretending that your vote matters is just easier, isn't it? And so the show goes on. The curtains stay drawn. The puppet masters keep pulling the strings, and you keep clapping along, still buying tickets to the same tired theatre, wondering why the ending never changes. It's because it's never meant to change. It's meant to distract you until the final act. But obviously, this was just for entertainment once again. Sorry for the rant, beautiful people. I'm as fictional as a dinosaur, baby.
Okay. I just thought I'd try and level it all out. Like, he's heard it all before, I've heard it all before. With the taxes, I'm gonna tell you now, this is gonna be on my piece why I left the UK, then came back, and then I left again. The last time I was in the UK, so much crap going on, I decided not to pay my taxes, and I didn't pay my council tax. There's a reason why, and I'm going to leave that for another show. And I decided I'm not paying any council tax. I was took to court by our local council, who I've always had fights with, and they put a court order against my house that when I sell the house, they will take the tax from that place and take it off me. The girl, the lawyer in the court, was a really nice girl. She was probably about 30, and she said, Gary, just sign it, don't argue with it. She said, no one can take your house from you, but they will take the tax if you sell it. Now, I was in real estate in the UK at the time. I bought that house, unfortunately, ill-advised when the prices were high. There was a deficit of about 20 grand lower than the house was worth. When I decided to hand back the keys to the mortgage company, and I saved myself about £3,000 in tax in all sorts of areas. I did, but he's not wrong. I decided not to pay into the system no more. They can't take your house off you for not paying your taxes. I mean, I think they must probably lock you up now. I decided to take a stand, and the stand didn't work, and I was dragged through the courts not once, twice, and it cost me quite a considerable amount of money. So I decided to fucking leave the country again. I'm going to do a spin on that and why I was neglected by my own council and my own government. Not that the council liked me in the first place. So let's have a quick look. Sorry, side spin. I've got pledges by Nigel Farage here. 300 million for the National Health Brexit pledge. Devolution, this is going back. Devolution of the Scottish Parliament, immigration law advisor and trans prisons. List goes on. I'm not going to go on what they're pledging. I will go back later on and see if they held them pledges. There's one here, track record of U-turns. Nigel, I didn't say Nigel, see this is even worse. Farage's history on reversing positions. Let's just go back to Keir Starmer before we talk about this one, because Keir Starmer has gone back on absolutely fucking everything, eh? Sometimes within days, sometimes within years of what he's done. So 2016, oh god, I've got to go back 9 years. I'm just explaining that to keep everything equal. 2016, National Health Brexit deal, pledge, then he disowned it, claims he didn't, he said it years, anyway, I'm not going down that road. I keep saying I'm not going down that road. I'm trying through the election. He said he wouldn't stand, then weeks later announced he would. I imagine he was persuaded to stand, you know. He is the man. He is the driving force behind reform. No two ways about it. He's had plenty of time in the media to actually give himself a good spin. Devolution, Scottish devolution, here we go, see. Wanted to scrap the Holly Rod and then accepted it would stay. Trans prison stance, backed a case-by-case policy, then publicly reverted to a ban. Reputation for straight talking, 100. I just put yes, 100%. Fact checking, not all the time, because Tommy Robinson, which I follow Tommy Robinson now for about 10 years, and I saw a live post. He was live on his phone, right? He was literally live outside a police station. He knew he couldn't cross the line. He said he'd get arrested. Someone threatened him and threatened to kill his mum. I was watching this live. I was sitting in bed, because that's the opposite end of the scale of time, and he was sort of blah blah blah, and he said, look, all these Muslim kids, and he was saying, and they're going in, look, they got their bag, they're ready, they're being sentenced, I can talk about them, I can mention their names because they're already been sent. They're now going in to see how long they're going to get, so it doesn't affect whether they're guilty or not. And then the police saw him being harassed by these people, and then arrested Tommy Robinson, who spent about 3 months in prison. Fucking happens, man. If you think you live in a country. So anyway, I have problems with Nigel and Tommy Robinson, who's now going to have the biggest National Pride Day for being British in history on the 13th of September, and most probably Nigel Farage won't bother attending. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look at something else. There's not a lot left. So where's the money? This is the point. Where's the money coming from Nigel? This is just one point. I've got a lot of stuff here. I'm not even going to read it out. I'm just going to have a little beer while he tells us what's going on.
You were certainly right about one thing in your speech. We do want to know how you're going to pay for the policies that you've announced today. You've mentioned a couple of pretty big measures that will bring in savings, but even those won't quite cover the cost of your already announced tax plans, like the 20,000 threshold. So what I'm wondering is, are you going to tell us today how you're going to pay for winter fuel allowance, for scrapping the two-child benefit cap, and for the new married couples allowance. Are you going to tell us how you paid for these measures that you've announced today, or have you got a magic money tree growing in your back garden?
All right, you started it. The cost of net zero to the taxpayer, figures produced by the Institute of Government, are estimated between 2025 and 2030 to cost £45 billion every single year. The cost of asylum seeker accommodation, be it hotels or be it houses of multiple occupancy, as I mentioned earlier, £4 billion every year. That may be a slightly low estimate because actually the overall costs of illegal immigration are much higher. DEI, as researched by Defunding Political Campaigns, estimated to cost government £7 billion every year. Quangos, just a 5% cut. And by the way, do you remember in the general election, we suggested a 5% cut? I mean, you thought, you know, what dreadful people we were. Impossible, it can't be done. And yet the government now proposing a 5% cut. Well, we're proposing a 5% cut to Quango funding, which would over a 5-year term be £65 billion. If you add all that up, you've got a pretty eye-watering number of £350 billion. And whilst that may be, I accept, you know, slightly optimistic, because it's difficult always to cut everything, I think you can see very clearly the direction that we're going in. We can't afford net zero. It's destroying the country. We can't afford DEI. It's actually preventing many talented people from succeeding. And we certainly can't afford young, undocumented males crossing the English Channel and living in 5-star hotels with 3 square meals a day and free dental and healthcare. I think that gives you a pretty good indication of where savings are going to come from. Plus whatever else we can find. And if we find it at local government level, we'll find it at national government level too.
No, I didn't fire. It was the can of beer. Oh, hang on. No, can't do him yet. So on reflection, I would say he's a pretty smart cookie, eh? This is the basics. So if you actually look... Oh, God, I need a wee now. No, I don't. If you look at the local Reform Party councils, how much money they've saved already. You imagine that if that was across the whole country. The amount of money they'd save would be unbelievable. I've got here... That journalist is just, it'd be a BBC type fucking wanker. Journalists are not journalists anymore. They're not independent journalists. I'm trying to be independent here, but I'm telling you, I'm just looking at the data. I'm looking at everything I've looked at, and I just can't not see these people not getting in. Are they going to be like when I voted for Tony Blair or David Cameron or out here in New Zealand? I don't know until I've given it a go, but I've got to give it a go because these guys, all these other scumbags are not working. Look at that journalist, Money Tree. That's cheap journalism. Money Tree came from, was it Theresa May or someone? The Money Tree, your magic money tree. They have a magic money tree, this government, when it comes to everybody except the people that live in that country, being UK at the moment. I'm going to finish while I have another beer. This is literally only my first beer. What? Oh. This is only my second beer. What? This is only my 4th beer. So Matt Davey. I'll put him under reform because the way he's talking, he's under reform. I could go on and on and on and on and on. He sums it up a lot better than I ever would because I never went to university and he did, and it's not fair. I went to Kilkeny.
Let's get one thing straight. Britain didn't die, she was killed. And the people holding the knife are sitting in Parliament, broadcasting from the BBC, preaching from universities, and hiding behind every inclusive policy shoved down your throat. This isn't just cultural decline, this is a war on British identity, and we are losing. For generations we were taught to be proud of our history, our language, our values, our flag. Now we're told it's offensive, we're told to apologise, to decolonise, to diversify, to progress. But let me ask you this. What kind of progress erases the past, silences tradition and shames the people who built this country? Our children are growing up in schools where they're taught to be ashamed of Winston Churchill, but to wave flags from every other nation under the sun. They can't say the Lord's Prayer, but they're taught 73 genders. They don't know their own national anthem, but they can recite activist slogans word for word. This is not education, it's indoctrination. And the elites love it, because a nation that doesn't know who it is can't fight back. They've stripped the Union Jacks from our buildings. They've removed plaques from our streets. They've torn down statues, renamed institutions, edited books and told you it's for your own good. Meanwhile, they open the borders wide, flood the system with foreign influence and tell us multiculturalism is enrichment. But nobody asked the people who actually live here, did they? It's not hatred to want to preserve your culture. It's not racism to want your children raised in a country that honours its own. It's common sense. And yet common sense is now hate speech. Britishness is now a dirty word. Try wearing a poppy in the wrong place and see how tolerant the new Britain really is. The working class are mocked. Christians are censored. Families are broken. Men are feminised and women, well, they're just erased. This isn't progress, this is national suicide. And the worst part, they're making us pay for it. Your taxes pay for diversity officers who make you feel like a stranger in your own town. Your licence fee funds networks that laugh at your values. Your government, Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green, they've all bowed to the woke cult because the real power isn't in Downing Street anymore. It's in unelected NGOs, human rights lawyers, globalists, think tanks, and activist mobs who cancel anyone that dares speak up. But I'm speaking up, because if we don't stand now, there'll be nothing left to stand for. This land, our land, was built by sacrifice, by men and women who gave their lives for flag, for crown, for village and chapel, for hearth, for homeland. They didn't fight so their great-grandchildren could be strangers in a country that won't even fly its own flag. They didn't die so that we could hand over our heritage to bureaucrats and cowards. It's time to say enough. Enough apologising. Enough self-hate. Enough surrender. We don't need to rewrite history. We need to remember it. We don't need to erase our identity. We need to revive it. British values matter. British culture matters. British faith matters. And if that makes me dangerous, then so be it. I'd rather be dangerous than disposable. Because they might control the institutions, but we still have our voice. And it's time to raise it, not with violence, not with bitterness, but with truth, clarity and courage. Because a country that forgets who it is doesn't survive. And I will not let that happen on my watch.
I had tears in my eyes when I first watched that and then sort of cut it all down. I would never have left the UK the second time in 2008 when I got back if we had this as a momentum back in the UK. I would have stayed to see the outcome. I truly believe this is the last chance the UK has got before it goes into diversity and welcomes every scumbag in the world. I really truly believe. I went in objectively like Tony Blair and all the others and David Cameron and Margaret Thatcher, but this time it just seems there's a different passion. They're not just reading from some script and they're literally wanting change. There's passion. You can see it in Nigel Farage. There is passion. Zia, his right hand man, his spokesman basically. I see it. Lee Anderson, what a great Prime Minister he would make as well. I just wish this was 15 years ago, and I would, most probably, it sounds terrible, I wouldn't have come back to New Zealand because I would have seen reform coming our way. And if you don't vote reform, if you're just a party liner, I'm getting annoyed now, if you're just a party liner because you've always voted Labour, you're part of the problem. I've never been a party man. I'm going to be proud when I see June stand next to Nigel, who's probably at number 10 somewhere down the line, as an MP that came from Lowestoft. I had the opportunity to get into the council work in the 90s. I turned it down because I thought, I had a conversation with my wife and she said I must probably have a heart attack. I see reform coming, and you should vote reform, because if you don't, you're completely and utterly fucked. You will be completely and utterly fucked. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to have a beer with Les because he looks like he needs a beer as well. Think about it, folks. I'll leave you with this. Was that alright, Les? I didn't act too pissed, did I? What do you mean I did? I only had a beer. Look, it's only the one. I kept pouring. Gee whiz, man. I'm an actor. This is not real. I'm not real. I'm not a fucking dinosaur baby. I'm just Gary Kedless. Ta-da's, folks. Charlie, what? I know. Fuck off. In here. I should have been an MP.
Could be wrong, I could be right. Oh, God, blimey.